Hey everyone, welcome to the Creator Show. This is your host, Ruben Drieger, and I am so excited. We have a really special guest on today, and we're going to be talking about some really fun stuff. And actually, thinking back to the episodes that we've done on this podcast, I don't think we've done a lot actually talking about some of these subjects that we're going to be diving in as far as launching parts of your business, maybe a little bit of email sequence, maybe a little bit of Instagram stories. And so I'm really excited to bring on Kendall. And Kendall, I just want to say thanks for being on the show, and I'm excited to dive into this.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Excited to
Okay.
gold nuggets.
Perfect. So basically, now there might be some people listening that already know you, but how about you give yourself like a 2-minute intro of who you are, what you do, and then just gonna dive in.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so my name is Kendall Strampel. I'm not really known as Kendall. No one actually ever knows my first name. Most people know me as Fears to Fit. It's where I'm on all social media platforms. And basically, I now live in San Diego, California. I'm 21 years old. I'm about to hit my T-Swift year in like 1 month. But I grew up living in Florida. I moved to Pennsylvania when I was in high school, and pretty much in the midst of high school, I went through an eating disorder. And kind of long story short, had a lot of support, was able to bounce back, and I found bodybuilding as the thing that really encouraged me to recover in a way that was more healthy. And so I realized for myself, like, I did not want other women to go through this. I was like, I am going to do everything in my power to like pretty much just break the cycle of like what society wants women to believe about their bodies. So in regards to, less is more kind of thing. So I actually, when I was 18, went ahead and got certified as a personal trainer. I was in college at the time, and I also had started my Instagram account. And to be honest with you, back then, Instagram wasn't really that big of a thing.
Right.
I got a little bit of a head start, which was pretty gnarly because I started gaining a lot of traction, and like people were just following my recovery from my eating disorder, and also just following like my journey with like my strength gain and things of that nature, to where girls actually started reaching out to me for coaching. And I was like, what the heck? I can make money from this thing. So I basically just started like coaching a few girls here and there. And basically the freshman year of my college came to an end, and I was making like a little bit of money online. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to see if I can make this work for myself. I wanted to get out of Pennsylvania, so I moved down to Florida with my sister for like 4 months, and then realized like, holy crap, I can make this coaching thing take off for myself. So I worked at an in-person training gym, learned a lot about sales, luckily. And then I started making enough money, quit my job, and I flew out to California. I was like, I'm going to live in California. So I literally just dropped the ball, moved to Cali, moved to LA first. It wasn't my vibe. So I moved down to San Diego, and then I've been coaching now, fitness coaching, for like 3.5 years. And then just last year, I launched my coaching academy to help other online fitness coaches. So now I work with both full roster, a whole team of fitness clients and assistant coaches. And then I also work as a business coach too. So that brings me to where I am.
Fabulous. Oh, I love it. And whenever a lot of the people we interview are from, whether it's southern states or whether it's like California, and we're always so jealous. I'm up here in Canada. I come down to California as much as I possibly can. So, oh, shoot. Well, I'm excited to dive into this. So now I want to talk about a couple parts of your journey. So the reason I'm going to dive into these parts is because I know our listeners, where they're at, and what's going to be really helpful for them. So we're going to dive into that business stuff that I talked about in a second here. But first, I want to talk about that first while getting your first couple of clients. Basically you were starting to share on social, from what it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, just about your journey, right? Just documenting your own progress, documenting your own recovery, if you want to call it that. And so how did you go from the mindset of just, okay, this is my documenting, to actually, okay, I actually could build a business out of this? And how did you start to make that transition?
Yeah, for sure. So I call myself like the accidental coach. Like, I literally did not mean to become a coach. I knew that I could like help people, which is why I got my CPT and like my in-person certification, which didn't honestly help me at all with online coaching. To be honest with you guys, a lot of it was experience. But basically, I just started my Instagram, and this didn't have stories when I started my Instagram. That wasn't even a thing yet. Video wasn't really a thing, just pictures. So back then when I started, I think it was like 2015, I basically just was like, okay, I'm just going to share what I'm eating. I started off as a food account, actually. And then a lot of people who were recovering followed me, and they kind of almost like followed my recovery journey and recovered themselves. And then
Super cool.
yeah, and it was kind of one of those things where like over time, as I build more like rapport and trust with my audience, just from like posting, literally just posting like what I was doing on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
It's funny because those were the girls who were like my first clients because they followed my whole journey and they realized where I was at, you know, in the long run. And they were like, holy crap, like I'm assuming anyway, they were like, I can do this thing too, you know? And so, yeah, it was totally on accident, but it was a lot of just like sharing who I was and being like super, super transparent.
Okay, perfect. I love that. I love that. And I think that's a really massive thing. A lot of people are scared to literally just show up online as themselves. And I mean, social media makes it very easy to want to compare yourself or try to be better or more perfect than you are. So maybe just dive in on that a little bit. I know that's probably something you talk a lot about as far as content creation, just showing up as yourself, being real, not being like this. There's a lot of people I feel like that are pretending to be real online, even though they're trying to be very authentic. So talk about that a bit, because I think humans can feel humans online.
For sure. Yeah. I'm very transparent. Very like forward, even with my clients. I'll tell them if they're being vanilla. I'm just like, bro, you don't talk like that. Okay, first and foremost. Like I'll hold conversations with people and they'll be like talking to me, they'll be silly, they'll be funny, and then they show up online and they're like, hold on, let me teach you about macros. And I'm like, stop. So I think it's just really important to do two things. You know, if you're going to build trust with an audience, you really, really want to build rapport by educating them and showing you're an authority in that niche, or, you know, with your ideal client that you work with, which I'm sure we can talk further into in the future. But
for sure,
if you really want to like resonate with people, you have to be a human. Like you don't want to turn on to teacher mode all of the time. Like, don't get me wrong, like I'll hop on and like if I'm covering a very specific topic, I'll hop into teacher mode and I'll kind of use more of a teacher voice, and I use like very good diction and like, you know, I'll be very clear on like what I want my message to be. But then I'll also be like, yo girl, what's up? Like I'll talk in my voice, because I think that's the really important part of just building trust with people, is just like being yourself. And also too, like so many coaches out there are just like doing the same thing, whatever niche you're in. It's a lot of just like, I'll give fitness coaching as an example because that's where I started, but it's a lot of like, I help empower people and lose body fat. I'm like, great, hop in line. There's like 97,000 other coaches doing the same thing. Like, what about you makes you different? And I think that's the really important part for people who want to hop into the coaching space, is it's like, at least if you're not going to have a super, super specific niche, set yourself apart personality wise. And I think that's how you build trust with people.
No, I think that's great, because as much as getting niche is a good idea for most people anyways, no one can be you. And so that is the biggest differentiator, right? So I think that's so good. And I think honestly, because I mean, just looking over the last, because we've been doing this for, I mean, a lot of years, it seems like there was a massive push, in my opinion, towards like automation of so many things, that I think that the pendulum is swinging back, where people want more human connection than ever before through social media, especially even in this time that we're living in. Do you see that same trend as well? Or maybe do you see a different trend?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm really big on this kind of thing, because like I'm very personal in the sense that like I don't have anyone run my DMs for me. And I get it, like once you get like up there, you know, you might want to do like some DM outreach or like talk to people in a way that is more automated, but like you got to put the person behind it, you know. And I think like people, you can still grow organically. Like that's for me, I'm still organic completely, and like I had success from it, and I'm still having success from it. And like send audio messages to your audience. Like if people are DMing you, like take that personally, like nurture every single one of those people as though like, okay, this could potentially be a client for me. And I think that is a problem I see a lot nowadays. It's like a lot of just like the automation behind things. It's like, okay, if you're talking to someone and they tell you their goal, don't just send them like a DM that you send to everybody. Talk to them about their goal, you know, ask them who they are before you just jump into like what they need from you, or how you can serve in a way that's, you know, paying for your program. Build rapport with these people, build trust. And I think, yeah, for sure, that's definitely something that's lacking nowadays. That's what I know.
Yeah, no, I was on a team call with my team today, and whenever we were on a team call, we're talking about all the clients that we're working with, and we were always like, okay, these people are at this level, these people are this level. We kind of have like a code of like who we need to help the most, right? And so one of the person that we were talking about, we basically came down to like the biggest benefit that a new coach has in the online space is that you have way more time to spend on each lead. It's actually a beautiful thing for people that when you're just starting, and if you have 10, 20 hours a week, you can get so deep and that basically deliver such a high quality prospecting, nurturing journey for them that that's your biggest advantage being a new coach is you have that. And so especially when you're at that level, don't like, yeah, when you have $1 million business, $2 million business, as it builds up, it is harder to do as much. But even the people, I mean, that maybe you and I follow that are massive, even they still try to get in there a little bit, if not all the day, but a little bit, right?
Yeah, and I'll be very transparent. And I don't mean to like toot my own horn. I'm just putting things into perspective for like the listeners here. As like, I have 270,000 followers, and I have
Yeah,
a tracker for every single person who hops in my DM. So like, even the amount of DMs I get a day, which it's like 100. Like,
I bet.
like literally, and it's a lot of like the same recycled people because like we just nurture and nurture and nurture
For
them. Like
sure.
that's, whether it's with my community page because I have like a community client page, or whether it's on my page, still have a lead tracker. And every 4 weeks, like, or every 2 weeks, if I'm like low on like applications, I'm like, okay, let's go nurture these leads, and like eventually they become clients, you know.
100%. No, that's the beauty of it. I mean, especially with organic marketing, where you can build great businesses with it. You just have to be super intentional. And I love it that you say you have a tracker because this is something, I mean, we're really big on at CCI is tracking everything because if you don't track it, you have no idea what's going on. But talk about that a little bit because there's a lot of people listening to this. I know because I get on calls with them every week and none of them track anything. Talk about that. I'm so happy you brought that up.
Okay, dude. Oh my Lanta. I will talk about this because let me just tell you, I've been in business for almost 4 years, coming up here in like I think it's July. And the first 2.5 years of my business, like honestly, not until just like this last year, I really started tracking my leads. And it has been such a game changer for us because basically with like FTF, with what we have for the fitness side of things is, you know, we have our value ladder with one-on-one, and then we have down sells
Yeah.
and things of that nature. Well, if we go back and pull leads from our tracker from months ago, we just launched a membership site last month. And so, you know, that's my lowest tier downsell. It's like, okay, well, what about all these girls that we didn't sign for one-on-one?
Exactly.
We just can go ahead and, you know, reach out to all of them. And eventually, like maybe you don't get them as one-on-one, but the cool thing about that then is they can then climb the value ladder from that lower tier if you really serve them in a way that is beneficial for them to eventually go up to one-on-one.
Exactly.
So, or, you know, the higher level tier. So tracking is hard. Don't get me wrong.
Takes time.
It takes time, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Instagram, whatever platform it is. It definitely takes time, but especially if you feel like they are someone who does just need your help, it's like, forget, you know, if they have the money, whatever. If it's genuinely someone who like needs your help, put them into your lead tracker. Like if you feel comfortable talking to them and like they could be a potential, you know, client for you, then put them into your lead tracker. It's as simple as, at this point, if you don't have the material, use an Excel spreadsheet.
Exactly. No, there's always the free stuff. You like it's super easy. And I think that's perfect topic to talk about because a lot of people they'll try to get clients and if they say no, they just never even think about them again.
Yeah.
Which is like so sad because number one, that human still needs help. So whether it's just some free help or a free video or whatever for now, but these people the whole saying, the fortune is in the follow-up. It's funny because it's cliche, but cliches are true because they're said so often. And so it's so important because we've done the same thing where like we've had people who are like we followed up with them for 6 months and then they signed up.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, and this goes down to the whole like people fearing rejection as well, because they'll get rejected, then they'll like be like, oh, I'd never want to talk to that person again, when they weren't saying it to you. There was something holding them back, right? So no, I love it that you brought that up because I talk about the quote unquote unsexy things about business all the time, because that's what builds a business, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I think it's about like the nurturing side of things, you know, just genuinely removing the emotional side, removing, you know, any attachment that you have to the sale, and just thinking about.
Yeah, fabulous. On this topic, let's talk about actually Instagram stories a little bit because I know you're really big on them, and I'm interested to see how you use them when you're thinking about whether it's nurturing people or who's seeing it and how you're facilitating them. Let's dive into that a little bit.
Oh, I love Instagram stories so much. Okay, so I'll be like really like fully honest with all of you and listening here, and you too. It's just last year I had, in the beginning of the year, I had a breakup. It like trashed me. I was 20,
Right.
like early. I was just like took it the like awfully, and I did not show up at all. like at all for a solid few months. I was like maybe showing up here and there, and it was really bad. And I realized that I was like, you know what I'm going to do from here on out? If I basically almost started from scratch, but even with a bigger following, like my engagement tanked, everything. And I was like, I basically am starting from scratch here. Like, yeah, I have a following, but like I need to rebuild rapport with people.
For sure.
And I was like, I'm going to show up every single day on my Instagram story talking about some piece of value, whether it's something I experienced that day, an educational series that I take my clients through or prospects through, or just my audience in general. And so what I did was I kind of started doing these things called Instagram growth series. So I actually utilize Instagram story every day, but about once a month, I'll actually do this thing where I utilize my story to shuttle people over to like my email list, my Facebook group. And basically I just say like, cross-pollination is like the most beautiful thing ever. So I really use Instagram stories to get my loyalists to even just become more loyal. Also just to educate, even if people aren't going to be a client of mine. It's made the world of difference, literally the world of difference with my business just in this last, especially like 6 to 7 months. So Instagram stories are super powerful.
I love that. I love that. And I hear you saying two things. I'm going to repeat it, make sure I'm getting this right. So you're using them to, number one, provide value to people. So that's, I mean, number one, that's a nurturing tool. Number two, they're going to come back because of that. But the third thing that you're doing actually is you're using it as a traction channel to get people into, like you said, an email sequence, whether it's into a Facebook group, because you're trying to get them maybe, and I always call it, they're making a small commitment with you now. When they go to that next level, the first commitment was following you and watching your stories. The second commitment is now they're going to another place, another basically section of your sequence. And so talk to everyone a little bit about, once they get into your Facebook group and email sequence, what's the next step? Because we always love to discuss flow. What's the flow of audience to client? So what's that next step?
Yeah, so the conversion. So this is like a big thing that I actually focus on with a lot of people who run through my coaching program, is my business coaching program is, like I said, really big on cross-pollination. So what I'll do is I'll build that trust factor with the Instagram stories. I also will go live every day for an entire week, once a month, in relation with that Instagram story series. So what I basically do, for everyone listening, like, oh, write notes, because like this is a beautiful right here. I do a 5-day series. I barely cover a topic in the morning, right? I'll like kind of brush on the what and the why. I'll touch on why people need this and what it is. So for my fitness coaches, I'm just really good with fitness examples because I've been doing it. I always will do like the fundamentals of flexible dieting. So I'll talk about macro tracking with my audience, and I'll be like, okay, this is why you should eat like this, and this is what it is. But I don't show them how to do that on the back end. So I'll spend an entire week covering a subtopic. And Instagram story is so beautiful in the sense that it gives you so many tools to get people engaged. So I'll do a countdown and I'll say, hey, check out my live a little bit later on today. People will save that countdown. You can go and interact with those people. You can, ask poll questions, ask story questions, and interact with those people. Now, the cool thing is what I do is I redirect people to either my email list or Facebook group, depending on like which season I'm in, who I want to focus on. So let's say I'm focusing on my email list. I'll generally then provide an opt-in, and an opt-in is basically just what you're literally providing for people to opt into your email list. So the reason I'm going to give the email list first is because it's easy to cross-pollinate from email to Facebook group. So what I'll do is I'll have people opt in for my email list. And so I give a really, really solid piece of value. And it covers all the pain points of my ideal client. It covers majority of what my program is going to look like, but more of, like I said, the what and the why, but not the how. So I cover like gut and digestive health, mindset, just a few things that are in my program. And then, you want to have an awesome opt-in, because when you have a good opt-in from your Instagram story to your email list, people are just going to be like, holy crap, this person provides like so much value across the board, right? So once you have that opt-in, I actually then do a nurture sequence. So I'll send out an email for the entirety of a month, basically once a week. Just nurture that person. The first email will bring up more pain points. The second one will offer a little bit of a solution. The third one will bring it up again. And then the fourth one is a call to action. Now, the cool thing is with an email opt-in too is in the PS section of all of those emails, simplest thing ever, you can just redirect people to the Facebook group as well. And I nurture my Facebook group on a daily basis because I'm a crazy lady, but you know, you don't have to do it every day, but some people do it, you know, weekly, whatever it might be. But the more that you nurture these people and the more that you show up for them, you know, and the thing, like you said too, is like with starting off, like from the get-go, you have more time on your hands. So those are the things that you want to be focusing on. Whereas like, you know, further down the line, granted that you have a lot outsourced, you know, definitely try to still show up like on the front end of things, I think is so important. So yeah, that's the really cool thing about like using Instagram story is like you then cross-pollinate people into, you know, email lists and Facebook groups. But then of course, like you said, Ruben, the conversion is the hardest part for a lot of people. It's like, okay, you nurtured these people. Now what? Y'all, it's as simple as a call to action. That's what I always say. Like, nobody does the call to action. It's like, you nurtured these people. They trust you. It's like, just tell them you're a coach. Just invite them to apply. If they don't, that's fine. Maybe they just need to be nurtured a little bit more. But like, you now have all these people that you can go and reach out to, or you can just send them an invitation. And that's like the most beautiful thing about using Instagram story to shuttle people closer to you, because the subscribe to email lists and Facebook groups are your loyalist. And those are really warm leads, which that's done like the most for my business in the last year for sure.
Okay, I love it. And this is really important because I think a lot of people, they try to, they're either one end of the spectrum. I feel like on one end, they're trying to sell people too fast and they haven't nurtured them enough. The beauty of kind of what you're doing with your flow is they're becoming a part of your audience. They're seeing your content. So they're getting warmed up. Then they're getting extra value by going into your email list or into your Facebook group or showing up daily. And by the time there is a call to action or an offer for a call, they know you, they like you, they trust you, they're ready to get going. Or they're not yet, and maybe it's not the right time for them. That's okay. I think that some people, they try to sell too soon. Some people, they never do the call to action, right? So how do you find that balance? How do you find that balance for yourself? How do you find it for the clients that you teach, where you are asserting yourself when it is the right time to off the call, showing up confidently, but not showing up too soon?
Right. Yeah. So I think this is one thing I really focus on myself as well as with all of my client base, whether they're fitness or business, is alignment. And I think nobody feels good when they feel salesy. And two things. I mean, some people just always feel salesy, even if they're being super organic, and you really have to try and let go of that and understand that like you are providing a service for somebody and you are changing their life or their business or their brand, whatever it is.
Right.
And you have to really detach yourself from that feeling. That's something that I think, especially because I work with very young coaches, even people who are more seasoned with coaching really struggle with. So I think it really comes down to alignment. And personally for me, I feel like if I nurture somebody over the course of that month, I definitely feel 1000% ready to do that call to action with them.
Yeah.
Especially because that gives them a whole month to be consuming my content as well on both Instagram and Facebook. So I know that I've nurtured them enough by that point. Now, there are some people that I'll even do cold DM outreach to or something like that. And I feel as though it's not even about nurturing them. It's like, holy crap, like you need me. And that's when I'll literally just be like, do a cold DM outreach that leads to like a sales call, because I'm like, that's what I'm thinking. I'm just thinking about helping this person and I'm not thinking about making a sale at that point. So I think it really comes down to just alignment and also feel out the lead. Like if they're not interacting with you at all, it's like, well, maybe you just need to reach out to them on a one-on-one level and then do the call to action. Or, you know, just when you feel comfortable that you've nurtured this sequence enough or this person enough or a group of people enough, just do the call to action. And I always say the best call to action is just starting off with an educational piece, making someone realize their pain point, and boom, call to action, invite them to apply.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. No, that's so good. And I think it's going to be really important for people to understand is like, you do need to show up super confidently because, and this is why, I mean, it's so important to be on your own journey first and really believe in what you have and work on that mindset, because you're right. A lot of coaches in the online space or in any space that matter, they're great at coaching. They're really heart-centered, but they're not confident. They're not good at business. And this is, I mean, we came up kind of with the tagline like heart-centered and business savvy, which is because a lot of heart-centered coaches, they don't like to be business savvy because they don't want to be like those crazy people, right? And they don't have to be. They can do it in a beautiful way. And I think that's exactly what you're describing, which is really great. So Now, so we've been nurturing people. We have these call to actions. Great. So now when someone is maybe, they're getting close to a place, and maybe this is a question that you get from some of your clients. So when they're getting to a place where maybe they've been taking on a bunch of clients and now they need to scale, or maybe they need to add a second tier. What are some of your go-tos kind of things to do when someone needs to open up to maybe take on more clients? Maybe what's some of your favorite thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. So you need systems first and foremost. This is something I lacked within the first entirety of my business the first year, because I had zero systems.
Right.
I was like crying. I had mental breakdowns like every other day. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I took like 2 months to build, and I made a lot less money, but you know what? I made a lot more in the long run. So the first thing is like, obviously, systems I think is number one. Then there's two, of course, outsourcing things is very
Right.
important. So with the scalability of things, I think if you can set up some systems, so just to give a few like examples, as far as it goes with like the fitness coaching side of things, what I do with my clients is like, have a very like automated application process almost, because I feel like that's
Right.
the part. If they're already coming in as a lead, have the call set up automated, have the confirmation email automated. That saves so much time.
Yeah.
And then, your actual program, I think that's really important too, is like, it needs to be result driven, and it also just needs to be a very solidified program. I personally am like a course creator. So everything that I do is course material for my clients with a one-on-one check-in. So
Right.
if you can have some kind of system in regards to your actual program, don't just willy-nilly like give Google documents here and there and, get lost in the sauce. Like, you want to make sure you have like a really solid program for your people. And then of course comes the outsourcing. So like for me personally, I ran my fitness business by myself for a good year and a half. And then I started outsourcing to assistant coaches, to whereas now like it's completely automated through assistant coaches and all that good stuff. All my systems. Thank the Lord, because it was hard to get there. And outsourcing is also so terrifying. That's a whole nother thing. But definitely just having systems in play, just automation, of course, on the back end, so that you can focus on the front end, I think is important.
Yeah.
Lost with that.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I think, and that's why it's very important for these entrepreneurs to build the business the right way on the front end, because I feel like a lot of people, they build their business the first couple of years in a way that doesn't scale, right? And so when you get to that point when you don't have more time, you need things to basically buy you back time, right? Whether it's an automation, which can be software tech or whatever, or delegation through humans, assistant coaches, stuff like that. So that's perfect. And just, I want to actually, this is more out of curiosity, most of the coaches that we work with that they need to start implementing that, for me, are usually they're between like 10 and 12K per month. That's when they need to start doing that. Do you see that as the same with the people that you work with? I'm honestly curious.
Yeah, so actually a lot of the coaches I work with are very like first start coaches. So they're very
Okay.
just hopping into coaching. It's those people who ask like, what's the first step kind of thing.
Okay.
Scalability, I teach from the get-go, because I'm like, wow, I did not start with this. So like,
Right.
I think in terms of like number range with income, I think it almost even doesn't, I mean, definitely income is impactful, but I think it also comes down to like your sanity and how many clients that you feel like you can maintain within like what you're doing, right? So like I actually started scaling when I was only at like a 6K month, and I had a PA to start doing like a lot of the crap that I hate.
Right. Yeah.
I hate graphics. I hate setting up documents. I was like, here, you do this, paid her a small hourly rate, and it really helped me free up more time to nurture my clients. So like, I don't necessarily think there's like a specific number where maybe you need to outsource, but if from the get-go, like you can just keep your overhead low, but just like create systems. So like what I do for like the people who first start in my coaching program is like, I help them build a course, but I don't want them to have overhead. So like I use Teachable. There's a bunch of courses
Perfect.
there. I use Teachable. I have them literally start with like a Google Drive course that they build in folders to just keep themselves organized. And when they have the overhead, you just throw it into Teachable since it hooks up to Google Drive. So it's like, as long, and that's just an example, but like, as long as I think you have structure from the get-go, it allows you to eventually like go to that scalability when you need to. And I think also just in terms of like a number for when you need to scale, I don't think there's a very, very specific like income amount. I think it really comes down to, okay, I know if I invest this little bit right here, I'll sign more clients. And I know that scalability and that outsourcing is worth it.
Yeah, totally. No, that makes sense. And yeah, those are the averages that we see, but sometimes it's different. I mean, it's based on how much time you need to buy back in any certain situation, and as long as you have the cash flow, of course,
Right,
to make
right.
sure that it's happening. So, Kate, this is fabulous. No, I've really enjoyed talking to you. There's a lot of practicals people can take away, and I hope you guys are taking notes on this because retention of this information is more important than anything. So let's dive into a little bit. So one of the things we always like to talk about on the show is how do we go, the people that are listening, go from living by default to living by design? Because there's a big difference from going from the off switch to the on switch. And so maybe talk about how you did it in your life, whether it was from going from not being an entrepreneur to being one, or maybe from being one kind of to being one really. What was the tool, the hack, the thing that allowed you to make that switch?
Sure, sure. So I'm gonna give some insight first. I was the supposed to child.
Mm,
Okay. So I was the like, I'm gonna put air quotes on that, the supposed to child. Okay.
yeah.
I was supposed to graduate with my master's in dietetics. I was a 4.3, GPA graduate, top 10% of my class. Like, not to brag here, but like I was that supposed to child. Like I was supposed to finish school. And because of my eating disorder, I went to community college for the first year.
Mm,
And so I didn't get into like one of the bigger schools or anything. I did, but I couldn't go. So I let go of this whole like supposed to and realized that I was built for so much more than a traditional educational path.
mm,
It doesn't matter if you're 50, it doesn't matter if you're 18. Stop listening to what society tells you to do, because I went to school for a year, and in that year I started my coaching business so unintentionally, and I just went against the entire grain, against what my parents told me, my friends told me, or whatever I was quote unquote supposed to do. And so I think if you just stop letting what other people think get to you and start coming from, like you said, Ruben, heart-centeredness, and really focusing on just serving people, whether it's coaching or just something in the digital marketing space, e-commerce, whatever it is, just go for it. Like, don't let other people's opinions of you hold you back. Don't let imposter syndrome hold you back, because I did that for too long. It doesn't matter what age you are, gender, race, like nothing matters. Just go for what you want and build your own life. Like, literally build it. Don't fall
I
into
love
that.
that. I love that. No, and I think we actually had a guest. I think they talked about this in a bit of a different angle, but basically the same thought process of be self-aware of what you truly want, not what you think other people want of you, right? Because usually we live by default because we're not being creative, and you can't be creative if you're in this society hold, right? So no, thanks for sharing that, because I think a lot of people feel that I should be that child, right? And then it's like a family thing, whether it's like my family thinks this of me. And that was a big thing for me as well. Like I grew up in a small town of like 300 people. And basically I had three options, like be a pastor, work construction, or be a farmer. And although I had some thoughts of those things, it wasn't what I wanted to do. Is because I had a different want. So anyways, that being said, thanks so much for being on the show here today. Like, this is going to be very, very helpful for people. And honestly, it means the world that you came on and shared all this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. So anyways, guys, I want to give you all a chance to go check out Kendall's stuff. So she already said her Instagram, but say it once more just so that people can go check it out right now, because obviously they're going to want to follow you. So what is the places that they can find you, connect with you, etc.?
If you guys find me from this podcast, first and foremost, I would really appreciate if you just like send me a DM, say what's up. I always get back. But you guys can find me on Instagram. I'm on like every platform, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. My main priority is, I also have my own podcast, but my main priority is my Instagram, of course. And it's Fears to Fit. So it's FEARSTOFIT.
Fabulous, guys. Go check it out. And if you really enjoyed this podcast, make sure that you tag both Kendall at Fears to Fit and myself. Would love to share it to our stories and just help more coaches, entrepreneurs get these different practical tips on how to build a business, have the right mindset, go after their dreams. So anyways, that being said, we are going to head out for the day, but thank you for listening, and you guys have an amazing rest of your day. We'll catch you on the next show. Bye for now.